All right, Kyle. Like we've been saying all year, the yin-yang season for the Avalanche continues, and this is the good side of it. I don't know if that's the yin or the yang. Is the yin good or is the yang good? Which one is the good one? Whatever one the good one is, we got it against the Dallas Stars. A 5-2 win, and the Avalanche again follow up a so-so performance with a good one. Is that why this team is going to be so difficult to beat in the playoffs? A lot to get to on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, coming at you right now.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I think it's the yang. I'm going to go with the yang. All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. Follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live, and subscribe to our subtexts. The link to that is in the show notes, whether you're listening in your car, on your podcast service of choice, or over on YouTube. Click that link. Subscribe, interact with Kyle and I one-on-one. It's a lot of fun over there. All right, sir, let's jump into it. The Avs with a, I guess, bounce back win. We'll get to a little bit later why it's not really considered bounce back. Like the way the Avalanche record-wise since January, I mean, they've been doing this. They've been winning games. I know it might not seem that way because the losses seem to be kind of difficult losses and they don't play all that well, but this is what they've been doing. They follow it up with a win and a style of play where you're like, yeah, that's what we're used to with Colorado Avalanche hockey. This one was a big game, a very big game, just like it was against Minnesota. You lost that one. Okay, you come back a couple days later, you got to go up against a Dallas Star team who's right with you in the standings, and you stick it to them, man. 5-2, a really impressive win.
And I love that you mentioned in the opener the yin and yang. And if you look at us right now on YouTube, you're in all light. You have the sun coming through. I'm in a cave and I'm wearing all like dark colors. It's awesome. But no,
I don't like this. I'd rather the dark. Give me the darkness.
Just sunny Chris. No, but and honestly, this game comes up to, it's almost a mirror version of the Minnesota game, but this is what puck looks like on the other side of the coin. The Avalanche statistically outplayed the Dallas Stars. And honestly, let's just say this was a 3-2 game. That was two empty netters at the end. Mm-hmm. This is what the Avalanche should have done against Minnesota, and it just didn't go that way. They had freakish, weird Harlem Globetrotter goals go in the Minnesota game, and the Avalanche got to business and made sure that wasn't going to be a point of this game, and they did what they needed to. They got the depth scoring. You got your angry Nathan MacKinnon goal. You got goals from LOC. This is what you want, and this is what you expect the Avalanche to do night in and night out.
But they're just not doing that. Like we say that, and like this is what you expect from them. I'm sure they're saying the same thing. Like this is how we're supposed to play night in, night out. For whatever reason, it just hasn't been that way this year. And you know the injuries are no longer really a thing. Like that was earlier in the season, and they had a ton of them. And I get it, but now like you haven't really had that many. Like you still have the same guys out. But it's not that every game someone's out again, right? So now like you should be playing more consistently, and I don't know why they're not. But I don't know how to phrase this and saying like I don't want to say like I'm okay with it because I'm not. You'd rather have a team play consistently day after day. But you're itching to say something, so I'll let you go, and then I'll kind of back that up with why I'm kind of okay with how the Avalanche are playing like this. Go ahead.
It's the Avalanche, you expect them to do this on a night in, night out basis. And we'll talk about later that when you take a step back and look at the grand scheme of everything, the Avalanche have kind of been doing this, but you expect them to go in there and hang 8, 9, 10 goals on everybody, and you just can't. But what you see with this core right now, you have to feel confident. And we talked about this in the Minnesota game, that if the Avalanche played this Minnesota Wild team like in a 7-game series, you have to feel pretty confident in the Avalanche. And you would say the same about playing Dallas in a 7-game series. So seeing what the Avalanche could do with how they're playing right now, the injury excuse is out. Forget about Landeskog running through the door. He's not coming through the door. Like, this team on the ice right now, you feel confident in what they do. And when they drop a game, like we mentioned, like, this was a mirror game to the Minnesota game. It's just one of those things that happen. You're not going to win every game. Boston hasn't won every game this year, but they're on track to have one of the best seasons in NHL history. You're not going to win every game, but this team, how they're playing right now, you are very confident in where they are. You're just interested to see how they stack up against the East, but you're very confident in the core of this team and the synergy that they're playing with.
Well, and after the Wild game, I should say after every loss, it's just this catastrophizing of the loss, and it's like, well, this is why the Avs aren't going to repeat, and it's like, no, like this is not last year's team, right? That does not mean that they can't win it again. And I think what they just did following that Minnesota game with how they played against Dallas is why, like, after the Minnesota loss, after the Minnesota loss, like I was kind of like joking a little bit on Twitter, and some people didn't like that. They were like, this team is playing terrible. And I'm like, no, they're not. Like, they played a bad game. You can't just extrapolate a bad game to say, like, this team doesn't have it. Why? Because 48 hours later, look what they do. And that is why I feel like they are going to be a very difficult out in the playoffs. Are they going to lose games in the playoffs? Yes, they will. And then what I hear from people following an Avalanche loss in the regular season is going to get amplified times 100 in the postseason. That's just natural fandom. I get that. When a loss happens in the playoffs, it's like, backs are against the wall after one. That's just fandom 101. I get it. But how the Avalanche are following up losses all season long, for the most part. You had that very bad stretch in late December. That was like a 7-8 game losing streak, whatever. Stuff like that happens too. But for the most part, this team does not have two stinkers in a row very often. And that, I just feel confident in this team. If they have a loss in the playoffs, they're going to follow it up with a very good performance. Why? Because it's just, they've proven they can do it. And then when they're playing the same team, they will they're following up losses against a completely different opponent, right? When you're going up against the same team in the playoffs, that you maybe didn't play so well in one game, they figure things out. So sure, like I'm confident, and I'm not just catastrophizing losses. You don't want to, you want to play well in every single game. I completely understand that, but the whole like season is a bust after a loss was kind of like just blown out of proportion. And I think this just proves to you that this Avalanche team is not going to be an easy out for anybody.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, people that are saying that this is the reason the Avalanche are not going to repeat this year. Let's look at last year. At this time, the Avalanche team that won the Cup were playing the worst version of hockey they were in the regular season. This was garbage time last year, and they were just atrocious, and they flipped the switch and ran through the playoffs. This team right now, this 2022-23 Avalanche team, they have found a momentum and a swagger for following up losses and getting things together right now that they're going to carry even more momentum into the playoffs.
Sure.
And I feel like they could be even more dangerous than they were last year with just the momentum and how this team is playing currently.
Could be. I mean, it's not going to be easy. I don't want to sit here and just say like the Avs are going to blow through the playoffs like they did last year. Like last year that didn't happen. Four losses all playoffs. Yeah, that was it. Like that doesn't happen. So I'm not expecting that, but they have as good a chance as anybody in the West right now.
Yep. And
you really can't convince me that they don't. So we'll get into more of this game. A milestone for JT Compher. How about that? And Mikko Rantanen on the doorstep of a milestone for him, as is Nathan MacKinnon, getting closer to that 100-point mark. So a lot more to get to with this game in particular. But first, we got a brand new sponsor over here at Locked On Avalanche, and that is eBay Motors. And for a championship team, much like your Colorado Avalanche, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride, Bronco Nation. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I got to do that in every single ad read with eBay Motors. They put the Let's Ride in there. It's got to be Bronco Nation. Let's ride.
If that doesn't fire you up, your wood's wet.
All right. Getting back to this game with the Stars. Yeah, you had JT Compher. 50 points on the season for JT. We will be talking about him, I'm sure, quite a bit in the offseason. And we'll save that for then. Like, we're in the midst of a season right now. I'm not going to surmise what could happen in the offseason with him, but he's made a case for, the Avalanche kind of bringing him back. And that inconsistent JT Compher, at least for this year, is we're not talking about that. How many times have we talked about that this year? Like, he's been a model of consistency this year, and 50 points, you got to give him a big congratulations for that.
But Chris, he's in a contract year.
Yeah, yes. I don't care. Put him in 1-year contracts all the time. Then if we're gonna get this production, give him 1-year contracts year after year after year, and then I'm fine if he gets 50 points.
Galaxy brain, dude.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, he's been good.
No, he's stepped up when that platform has been given to Newhook, and he hasn't claimed that spot. He hasn't claimed that consistency. He's been up and down. You've had rising stars and people falling. Like, JT Compher has been very consistent, and he's putting up really impressive numbers. And this is one of those at the end of the year when we do a year in review, when we talk about the absence of Nazem Kadri, the production, surprisingly, is kind of supplemented by JT Compher.
Yeah.
Who would have known? Yeah.
He's been a pleasant surprise, I would say, because I don't think anybody really expected that. A 50 point season from him. No, I don't think anybody had that on the, so good for him. So I'm happy that he's got that. Kind of like going into maybe some stats of this game and more kind of like fine tuning this game. Yeah. I mean, the end result of a 5-2 win, like you said, 2 empty netters. You had that crazy Mikko Rantanen one at the end. I mean,
felt like he put a little extra snark on that goal just because he was getting kind of chippy. I was like, this is Mikko doing Mikko things.
I mean, he did. He goes bar down from his own blue line, and he had to kind of get some rise. It wasn't, you're not showing off when you do that because that's next to impossible to do intentionally. But he had to get some lift on it because where Dallas players were, he couldn't throw it on a line. So he had to raise it over them, and he raised it enough to clip the bar beautifully. I mean, that doesn't happen.
No.
So it was the cherry on top, basically. And that's goal number 49 for him. But like I said, the end result of a 5-2 score maybe looks a little bit better for the Avalanche. The first period was really the whole game was tight, but I would say the Stars outplayed the Avalanche in the first period. And I was interested to see, as the game went along, how Dallas, if they could continue to hang, because they were coming off a back-to-back. This was the second game of a back-to-back. You're playing in Denver, obviously, where, the altitude wins every game for the Avalanche, and in Denver out clearly. I mean, it's been scientifically proven. Right. So I don't know if it just seemed when that goal was disallowed for the Stars, the win was just taken right out of their sails. And it was that is, I say this like tongue in cheek, like it was goalie interference, but I'm never sitting there as they're reviewing saying, oh, that's a slam dunk, because you have no clue what goalie interference is anymore. So I was hoping they would take it off because it would have been the right call, and cooler heads prevailed, and they did. But after that happened, it just seemed like Dallas was a different team. It was like we had to work so hard to get that goal, and it was kind of like the Avalanche against the Wild, like working so hard to get a goal back, and now you're within one, but for the Stars, it was taken away.
Yeah, and goalie interference is such a fluid, loose term that you hate to see it when it's applied, because you never know how it's going to go and how it's going to play with momentum. And that was a textbook wind out of the sails moment. Now, you could visibly see it with how Dallas was playing up to that moment and after that moment. And that Nathan MacKinnon goal in that first period was the lone goal in the first period, and that just angry snipe. And for them to try and come back with that goal to tie it up and then to be taken away, you could see that kind of push to even things up just taken away. And the Dallas Stars are just like, okay, let's just try and survive and push as much as we could. And if you take those two empty netters away, they tried, but it just wasn't there.
No. And like I said, in the first, like where I thought it was, I would say that Dallas outplayed the Avs. Mikko committed a penalty at the end of the first, which I did not like. A lot of people on Twitter calling it a soft penalty. I didn't really think so. I thought Mikko slammed him into the boards pretty hard. He saw his numbers, and you have to pull up when you see that. Yep. But no harm, no foul. They didn't score on that power play. But they did, however, and this is when like the Avalanche started to really, even though they had the lead, they were really buzzing around. And JT Compher gets called for a penalty for playing with a broken stick that he didn't know was broken, but that doesn't matter. Like
that was slashed, by the way.
It was. But he goes and tries to play the puck, and there's no blade on his stick. So he gets called for the penalty, and what happens? Dallas scores on that one. They sneak in a goal. But whatever. Like that's one of those fluky things, but it is a penalty. So you saw like, and that's the difference of the two. Like the Avalanche were really starting like buzz around and maybe grab another goal, and then Compher gets called for that, and Dallas scores. The Avalanche could have got the like oh man, like we were really flying there, and then we get a penalty and they score on it, and you could have saw the Avalanche kind of sulking. And they didn't, and they just kept on it. And the second and the third, they were clearly the better team.
Yeah, that moment right there, I'm glad you brought it up, because that could have went two ways. The Avalanche could have just played like Dallas did, took themselves out of it, and it could be a different outcome. Or if JT Compher was aware of the stick situation and threw the stick away, got a new one, the Avalanche, the way they were buzzing at that point, you would have had that 7-8 point goal night from the Avalanche that fans anticipate the Avalanche to do every single night, because they were really buzzing up until that penalty was called.
Yeah. And you knew Dallas, like, not that they threw in the towel or anything like that after the reversal of that goal, but you had Hakanpää, who's like one of the best names, I feel like, in the sport. He gets called for a holding penalty on Dennis Malgin, who's like 5'7", 160 pounds soaking wet. And I don't know what Hakanpää is, but he's a big guy. I think he's like 6'5". He's got to be 220. And he gets called for a holding penalty on Malgin. And when that happened, I was like, dude, they got to be exhausted. Yeah. And I get it. You're playing it back to back. You're in Colorado. Like they just, I didn't how this game went is kind of in the back of my head, how I thought it was going to go in terms, like, as long as the Avalanche can stay on them and have a lead, a team that, if the visiting team has a lead, they're just going to be running on adrenaline. But you made Dallas trail the whole game, and then stuff like that started happening. And for Dallas, you just have to kind of, say, we got you last time, and this time you guys turn the tables.
Yeah, and the Avalanche held on with all the ridiculous, like the calls started getting a little goofy and crazy and a lot more frequent the more the game went on. And with this win, the Avalanche take the season series against Dallas in 3-1.
Yeah. And
that speaks a lot to where Dallas has been sitting all year in the Central Division, that the Avalanche won this season series with all the ups and downs the Avalanche have endured. and then putting the exclamation point on with this 5-2 win with all the calls in that last game.
Yeah. Yep. And I thought, as far as players, I thought Logan O'Connor was great.
Yep.
I thought he played a great game defensively, especially on the penalty kill, which he always does. He had that one very nice goal, which seemed to catch Ottinger off guard. So he had a really nice goal for him. I thought he played great. As far as goalies go, I thought Georgiev was awesome.
Yep.
But he was great. There was some saves that he made. He rose up and made some really big saves that prevented Dallas from really getting back in the game. I thought he was aces. He was great.
And give me that face-off stat.
Yes, sir.
Loud and clear for all to hear.
56% to 44% in favor of the Avalanche. Turning the tides in that, man. And what was let me see what, because we've been singing the praises of Nathan MacKinnon on the face-offs. We won't do it for this one. Never mind. It wasn't that good. Yeah.
Delete it from the record.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's hear from Athletic Greens, and then an interesting stat that a beat writer for the Edmonton Oilers brought up, which had me do some digging, and it's pretty interesting. So we'll get to that. And of course, our sound check. But first, we got Athletic Greens. And what is this stuff? Well, you put one delicious scoop of AG1 into a glass of water, and you are absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, even your focus and your aging, and it's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it contains less than 1 gram of sugar. There's no GMOs, so there's no nasty chemical or artificial taste or artificial anything, because it tastes amazing. And it costs you less than $3 a day. Plus, you're investing in your health, so it's cheaper than your cold brew and coffee habit. So right now is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Once again, it's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I was poking around on Twitter. I apologize. I don't have the gentleman's name who posted this, but he put up a tweet stating, and I love Edmonton Oilers fans, right? You have the best player on the planet, and it's not good enough for them, and it shouldn't be. Like, you haven't won anything, and fine, you gotta root beyond just your almighty Connor McDavid. So I don't know who it was. I think he's a beat writer for the Oilers, and he put up a stat that said for the first 90 days of the season, the Boston Bruins have been the best team in the league. And then he said for the last 82 days, I don't know why we're picking 82 days, whatever. The last 82 days, the Edmonton Oilers have been the best team in the league. So I wanted to go look that up. And he's actually right. He is actually right. 82 days ago was January 10th. And I should say he's half right. Like on points percentage, yes, Edmonton is the best. They've played 35 games. They're 24-5-6. That's 54 points. The Bruins have played 36 games, so 1 more game. They're 27-8-1. That's 55 points. So Boston has more points, but when points works in your favor, you talk about points. When points percentage works in your favor, you bring out the points percentage. So he's clearly bringing out the points percentage, and fine. You're right. So Edmonton is number 1. Boston is number 2. You know who's number 3 since January 10th?
Columbus.
No, they are 4th. No, I'm lying. They're 33rd in a 32-team league. The Colorado Avalanche. They played 37 games, 25-9-3. That's 53 points. So they're only 1 point behind this Edmonton run, and they're only 2 points behind this Bruins run. And that's not quite half the season. It's a little bit less than half the season, but that's a good chunk of games to go off of.
Yeah.
So again, going back to the beginning of the show, all of the people out there who are just coming down hard on the Avalanche following a loss, you haven't been able to do it many times. You've only been able to do it 9 times, like Mr. Rooney said. They've been on a good stretch.
Yeah.
But it's kind of going under the radar, which I'm completely fine with. We've done this before where we're under the radar, and I think we always will be unless we're playing like, we're at the top of the standings like the Bruins, then you'll get noticed like they are. But if you're just playing your game and playing solid hockey, you kind of skim, even though you're the Stanley Cup champion, you're still flying under the radar a little bit. And the Avs, just based on this, they're doing great.
I mean, you see this and where we were just a couple weeks ago talking about where the Avs are playoff position and watching them climb up the Central, climb up the division, watching other teams fall apart. And this is honestly what we said at the beginning of the year. It's just there's no way Dallas and Minnesota could really stay there with how their teams are structured. Dallas, for certain, we've always said, how long could they stay at top of the Central? They're falling. The Avalanche are catching their footing, and they are climbing up the Central, and they are right about where we anticipated. It just took a little longer to get there.
And I'm just looking at it right now because you mentioned Dallas. They are 13th in this, 17, 10, and 8, 42 points. So 11 points behind the pace the Avalanche are putting up. And it showed because Dallas was ahead of everybody.
Yep.
And we were kind of talking about, like, are the Avalanche just playing for positioning, basically? Like, we were confident they were going to make the playoffs. The Central, I'm not going to say it seemed like a pipe dream, but it was going to be a mountain to climb. A lot of things had to happen. You had to start playing better, and Dallas needed to come back to earth a little bit. Both of those things have kind of happened. But you have Minnesota in there, who Minnesota is up there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th. So Minnesota is 8th in here, 22, 9, and 6. And they've played well too. So both these guys have caught them. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it kind of is going a little bit unnoticed, and it really shouldn't be. It's another reason why I just feel confident in this team's abilities going into the postseason, which is right around the corner. You got 7 games left, man. Comes up quick. So.
It does.
All right, let's finish this bad boy up with our sound check. And Kyle and I pick one song each that we feel best summarizes the most recent game. These songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify. Just open up the app, search for LOA Soundcheck, volume number 2 is what this one is. So what do you got for this one, sir? The Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars.
Well, everybody, it's WrestleMania weekend. So this one I had to pull, and it fits. This is the theme song for my favorite active wrestler right now, Metalingus by Alter Bridge.
That is a banger of a song.
Edge, the rated R superstar. Now, and it's the songs. It's one of the lines is, on this day I see clearly everything has come to life. When you see how the Avalanche stack up against not just Minnesota but Dallas, contrary to where we were just a couple weeks ago, even honestly at the beginning of the season during the rough patches and injuries left and right, you didn't know where this Avalanche team would be. You mentioned people saying there's no way this team repeats. I'm perfectly confident with the way the Avalanche are playing right now. Everything has come to light. Like, on this day, I see clearly. I believe in this team.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, man. Like, I think we kind of laid it out a little bit through the course of this episode. Why, again, like, following the losses, I don't get super down. Yeah, I'd like to see them win that game, but I'm not throwing in the towel after a loss, because just wait to see how they follow it up. And most of the time, this is what they do.
Yep.
It has to make you feel good. That song, by the way, man,
it's so good.
Like, if you are like working out or something in a gym, maybe on a treadmill outside for a nice little run around the neighborhood, and you need an endorphin high, throw on Alter Bridge Metalingus. You will finish the mile in sub 4 minutes. That song is incredible.
I think it has been a ringtone in whatever version phone I've had since 2005 or 6. It is a great song.
It shreds. Love it. And kind of going off of everything that we've just been saying, and how you just feel good about this team, I'm kind of going down that same road. And I went with an Our Lady Peace song, and the name of the song is called Heavyweight. Just because I feel like that's what this team is, a heavyweight. They're a dynamo, and yeah, they might not play well. When are they playing? Tuesday against the Sharks. We hope that they will, because the Sharks are one of the worst teams in the league. And if they do lose, it's going to be catastrophizing city. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I will sit here and, like I always, okay, they're playing the Sharks again, their following game, I would almost guarantee they'll follow up with a good win. And I will say that for the rest of this season, there's going to be more losses, whether in the regular season or in the playoffs. And when they happen, we'll talk about them. We'll criticize them. We'll say that they need to go work on things, and they probably will, because this team, in my opinion, they're a heavyweight. Yep, they are a heavyweight. So there you go. Go check those two songs out. And Kyle and I will be back tomorrow to discuss anything else going on in Avalanche Nation. So hit us up over on the comment section or send us emails. If you got any questions you want answered, we can throw those out tomorrow's episode maybe as well. Maybe we'll throw something up on Instagram too. We haven't done a mailbag in a while. Maybe we can do that. All right, that's going to wrap it up, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.